With Project Veritas special training, we will be the next great intelligence agency. Ships, vehicles, weapons, intelligence, men, and logistics reflect responses gave him a blank check to do just that.
I'm ready to confess. Now I'll lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul again.
When Erik wakes up in the morning, Erik does whatever he feels like doing. I always assume that's how it is when your father is a billionaire. When Prince asked for $10 million in the third installment, Alberto refused and subsequently told Prince that no more installments would be paid. According to a person with knowledge of the dispute, Alberto learned that no one in the royal family had ordered the payments to Prince. The loan to Prince, which has not been previously reported, was not repaid to Vulcan, and the entire $15 million was written off as a loss by the company in subsequent years, according to a person with direct knowledge of the transaction. Prince did report the $5.9 million payment as a loan on his personal tax returns that year. The Intercept sent Prince a detailed list of questions for the article. In response, a Prince spokesperson stated that Vulcan Management's loan, which was made in connection with FRG's investment, good Lord, and has used undercover cameras in an effort to expose reported liberal bias in political groups and the media. Trump often promoted Okeefe's videos and met with Okeefe just days after he declared his candidacy. A few weeks before that, Trump had donated $10,000 to Project Veritas and his foundation. It is unclear if Trump's support of Project Veritas spurred Prince's interest in the group, but in late 2015 and early 2016, Prince arranged for Okeefe and Project Veritas to receive training, intelligence, and elision techniques from a retired military intelligence operative, according to a former White House official who discussed the Veritas training with Rubio. The former special operative, after several weeks of training, complained that the Veritas group wasn't capable of learning, did not respond to the request for comment. In the winter of 2017, Prince arranged for a former British MI6 officer to provide more surveillance and training for Veritas at his family's Wyoming ranch, according to the person with direct knowledge of the effort. Prince was trying to turn Okeefe and his group into domestic spies for his part. Okeefe posted photos on Instagram and Twitter from the Prince family ranch of himself holding a handgun with a silencer attached and wearing military clothing. He described the ranch as a classified location where he was learning spying and self-defense, an effort to make Project Veritas the next great intelligence agency. Erik was weaponizing a group that had close ties to the Trump White House, said the former White House official familiar with Prince's relationships with Okeefe and Project Veritas. Project Veritas special training, we will be the next great intelligence agency. As Prince's latest proposal suggests that he sees business opportunities and services that are closer to political skullduggery and outright conflict. By marrying the two capabilities, social media manipulator and undercover surveillance by trained operatives. Prince has moved further along the spectrum of contemporary warfare. If a government won't pay him for a heavy armed paramilitary force in a hot conflict, he appears prepared to offer services that utilize a less obvious but perhaps more crazy kind of weaponry.
September 11th that essentially has been used to wage the so-called war on terror. It's essentially why presidents like George W. Bush and Barack Obama and President Trump have not used congressional approval to involve themselves in continued bombings in the Middle East, because they say, well, it's all part of the war on terror. The Venezuela situation is entirely different. So you can't even make that very, very thin stretch to say, well, you could do it here in Venezuela because it's under that AUMF. It's absolutely not. And so Congress actually needs to step up right now and fulfill its constitutional responsibility and say, you will not use military force in Venezuela without congressional approval, period.
Right. And now Pompeo and his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, are due to meet in Finland to discuss the situation. No word yet on what's going to come of that. So obviously, right. Russia is backing Maduro. We know
Represented Donald Trump at a secret overseas meeting convened by the United Arab Emirates in January. That's according to two intelligence sources familiar with the matter. The Washington Post was...
By the way, hold on a second. That sort of thing happened all the time with George H.W. Bush, right? Right? That happened all the time.
Right, it's standard operating procedure.
I mean, this is how, come on, this is how Brent Scrowcroft, this is how Brent and your dad did business, right, David Ignatius? These sort of...
Sure, their vehicles are running, that they have a communications plan, that they have batteries and radios, the basic elements of soldiering, to get them out there, to get them patrolling, to give them some helicopter medevac support, so that if one of them gets hurt, troops, it's a fact, they do better if they know that they're going to get taken care of if something bad happens.
So it's a support mission. It wasn't, as someone also said about you, because how much you love the Navy SEAL, that you have dreamed of creating this private army that could be a lightning quick response and deal with circumstances like Rwanda, like Darfur, and perhaps other hotspots. Essentially saying,
they were going to the Seychelles Islands every other week.
I'm sorry, when you first heard this story, for all of us that are old enough to remember, did you not immediately go back to Iran-Contra? This is just so,
The Washington Post was first with the story and what they described as an apparent, quote, back-channel line of communication between Moscow and the president-elect. The meeting took place about 9 days before President Trump's inauguration in the Seychelles Islands in the Indian Ocean. And the paper reports that the FBI has been scrutinizing the meeting as part of a probe of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election. The FBI declined to comment to the Post. The meeting was reportedly aimed at persuading Russia away from its relationship with Iran, including in Syria. Though Prince had no formal role with the Trump team, he reportedly presented himself as an unofficial envoy for the president-elect to high-ranking Emiratis involved in setting up his meeting with the Putin confidant. A Prince spokesman told the paper, quote, Erik had no role in the transition team. This is a complete fabrication. The meeting had nothing to do with President Trump. Why is the so-called under-resourced intelligence community messing around with surveillance of American citizens when they should be hunting terrorists?
Can I answer that question? Because he's not telling the truth.
And Sean Spicer
because he's lying.
tells